Well, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, and we're doing something a little different, which I'll explain in a bit. But please sit at a table that you have some passion about that subject for, because it's going to be fun. We got some prizes we're giving out. But I'll explain in a minute how that's going to work. Before that, I'm going to introduce Russ Owen, who will be our next mayor. Freaking park. So I'm going to let him give about 10 minutes, and then I'll get up and explain the little exercise we're going to do. Unfortunately, you're stuck with me. I'm like into consulting, so you're stuck with a consultant, which really sucks. So with no more said, I'll talk to Russ Owen. Can you hear back there?
All right. Good evening. Thank you all for being here. It's nice to be. This feels a little bit like a home crowd. That's good. I appreciate it. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you all for your support. I know I've had the chance to meet many of you, see many of you at a lot of my different events, different forums. Been in some of your homes and your living rooms, met your neighbors. You've taken me up and down Canal Street, met some of your business neighbors. So I appreciate you coming again tonight. I think tonight's event is going to be a unique event. I don't know of any other candidate that's done anything like this, and I'll let Susan will tell you more. But I think it's going to be a neat event, and thank you all for coming out to be a part of it. A couple of things before we begin. I know many of you probably know Marty. Marty is the director of Smart Growth, Citizens for Smart Growth here in New Smyrna Beach. And I think Marty has an announcement tonight. So, Marty.
Thank you, Russ. Does everybody like to get a news scoop? To be like the first people to know something very interesting. Okay, this evening we will put out another newsletter. And the headline on tonight's newsletter is Smart Growth endorses Russ Owen for mayor of New Smyrna Beach. And I'm not going to read you this whole thing, because I chickened out with doing that because that's kind of boring. So we have copies of this whole press release. We have 200 of them. So everybody should get one. And what we ask you to do is give them to your friends and neighbors. Now, if they're in our database, they will get it on an email tonight. But there's a lot of folks around town that are even older than me, which is surprising. And they don't necessarily, they even have less technological skills than I do. So they don't participate that way. Sometimes you have to give them things in writing. But they are very strong voters. They will show up, and they actually do their homework and make important, very good decisions. So what we'd ask you to do is take a copy of this, find a friendly Xerox machine, make as many as you want, and do that. For us to prevail, we're going to have a very strong grassroots campaign over the next 2 weeks, because the opposition is not going to let up. Now, let me just read you the first small paragraph of our release. After a thorough and enthusiastic review and analysis of all candidates seeking the office of mayor, we proudly and enthusiastically endorse Russ Owen for mayor. Mr. Owen is a dynamic leader that our town desperately needs to change our direction, help us grow intelligently, and protect our precious environment and quality of life. His solutions are dynamic, and his ability to lead and bring citizens together offers New Smyrna Beach the greatest potential for a prosperous future. So let's all get out and work for Russ Owen.
And I think you mentioned something in there about a rigorous process, or I forget how you worded it, but I can tell you it was. It was a panel interview. Some really sharp individuals sat there looking very sternly and asked me a lot of questions. And then they followed that up. I think they narrowed a few out, and then followed that up with a very comprehensive list of 20 or 21 questions, very detailed questions. I think they've published the responses of all the candidates that responded, that were invited to respond to that. What I like about that is it puts some things in writing, and I'm not afraid of that. In fact, out of all the candidates, I think I can say I've put more in writing than any other candidate on my Facebook page, and that, the responses to that survey. I'm not afraid of that because I'm not just telling you what you want to hear now. I'm telling you what's deep inside my heart and what I want to do when I become the next mayor of New Smyrna Beach. So the putting in a writing thing is great for me and it's good for you. It allows you to make an informed decision today and then hold whoever's elected accountable when elected. You can hold me accountable. You can hold me to what I wrote. I wrote it because I believe it, and I want to make those changes in New Smyrna Beach, or protect New Smyrna Beach in some cases. Make the changes needed to protect New Smyrna Beach. So again, thank you to that team. Thank you for all that you've done. I was talking to somebody with the Residents Coalition earlier, and they were thanking me. I said, no, thank you, because if it hadn't been for the work of that grassroots effort and the Citizens for Smart Growth, long before I was really an active participant in this, there wouldn't have been much left to fight for. There are people that have been fighting for this for a long term. So I appreciate that. I thank you, because that left something for me to fight for my kids. And I've said this. One thing I hope comes from my campaign, whether I'm successful or not, one thing that I hope comes from my campaign is that young leaders in New Smyrna Beach realize that it's our turn. We have to start stepping up. It's not enough to just be on Facebook and like a post or post about a problem. We must step up and start being a part of the solution. And that's kind of what tonight's all about. Another really special guest here tonight, someone that gave me a big surprise yesterday. So let me tell you the story. Yesterday, the Chamber of Commerce, the Southeast Volusia Chamber of Commerce, hosted a luncheon over at the Yacht Club, wherever that is from here. And they had all the candidates there, from all the New Smyrna candidates for every office, all of the Edgewater candidates, and all the Oak Hill candidates. And so they were all there. And so all the candidates for mayor of New Smyrna was getting up and talking. And Mr. Ed Ellison, one of my fellow candidates, got up to speak. He was before me, a couple of candidates before me. Got up to speak and started, telling his just amazing story of being in New Smyrna for 60-something years, and his, parents were here when it was a dirt road. 44 was a dirt road, and just has this great story and so much passion about New Smyrna Beach. And then as he started winding up, he said, but I want to protect New Smyrna Beach. I want to make a difference, but I don't know that I'm the person for the job. And I thought, well, that's an odd campaign strategy. but he knows what he's doing, so I'm sure he's got a plan. And so he said a little more, and I don't remember everything he said, to be honest, because I kind of lost track there for a minute, because I was wondering where's he going with this. And but he said something about we need somebody that understands the city financials. He said it's something about needing youth and energy and passion. I think some of those words were in there. And then he turned and said, and that's why I'm withdrawing from the race and endorsing Russowen. So again, thanks, Dr. Thank you for being here to stand up. And, I stood up after that and I had to, come up with a whole new speech because I didn't anticipate that. And I told them, I said, we got to communicate better, if nothing else. And just, 10-second heads up would have been great on that announcement. But I told them then, and I posted on Facebook about this, and what I said then, and I mean it, that's real leadership. That's real passion and care for New Smyrna Beach. It takes the bigger man to step down and say, I think that I want to help someone else do this. That says so much to me, being willing to do that. So, thank you to anyone who was previously supporting Ed. Maybe this is your first chance to meet me. I look forward to getting to know you. If you have any questions, want to talk about anything, learn why Ed thought I was the candidate that he could support, happy to talk to you. You can call me, you can text me, message me on Facebook. I'm responsive in many different channels. So I think that was all the kind of announcements that I had. I feel like I've talked to a lot of you, so, and I have no new jokes. So I don't want to just run through everything again and bore everyone, but I want to make sure if you haven't heard, I'll respond to a few of the most frequently asked questions that I get, and tell you just a little bit about myself, the real high-level summary. All of this is on my website and other channels you can read. But been in the community for 25 years, and care deeply about this community. This is home, and I want it to stay home. I want it to be a place. I could live anywhere in America with my job right now. I could live anywhere, and I'm choosing to live here, and I love it here. I live here because I love it here, and that's why I'm running for mayor, because I want to keep it a place that is still charming, that still has the community feel, that it still has a vibrant downtown business community, that still is welcoming to outsiders, especially those that will be a part of our community, that will come in and support our arts, support our businesses, support our community, will make us a better place. So that's why I'm running. I've worked in the area professionally for my entire career. It's been about 9 years at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. I was the executive director of finance and budget when I left. Had a team of about 60 folks, and I say all that just to kind of summarize. I'm the youngest candidate in the race. I'm 36, but that doesn't mean I haven't been around the block a bit. I've got some leadership experience. I'm nothing special, but this isn't new to me to lead a team, to be responsible for a large budget. I've done that. I have the ability to do it if elected. Another thing that I want to make clear. One of my fellow candidates is making a big issue out of time. Very concerned about my family time on my behalf, which I appreciate. My wife is here tonight, and I can tell you, I've got the time to do this job. Busy people get stuff done, and having the time to do something and having the ability to do something are two totally different things. And I'm just saying that. I've spent my entire career bringing people together. I've spent my entire career reaching out and reconciling differences, bringing teams together, leading teams, and I think I can do the same. I think I can do the same if elected mayor. So I mentioned my wife; she's here tonight. We also have that's Katie over here. We also have. There's a joke that I've heard before. We have three amazing children. The joke is that we have 2 amazing children and another one, but we have 3 amazing children. I didn't make the joke, somebody else did, but it was we have 3 amazing children. I have a 9-year-old son, a 6, almost 7-year-old daughter. She's about to be 7, and an almost 3-year-old daughter. I am a product of the community. I went to Daytona State College, went to UCF, picked up a couple of degrees. So that's about me. So the next most common question is, why are you running for mayor? I think I've touched on that. I'm running for mayor because this is a pivotal time for New Smyrna Beach. It's that important. This wasn't on my 2018 to-do list. It wasn't. I thought one day that I would like to be involved. I attended a lot of city meetings. It's funny because I kind of got involved, maybe as many of you, as kind of a backyard issue. And then I kept going to the meetings and I kept seeing things that I felt like, hey, that could work a little better. Like, I don't understand why they're not asking that question. And I tell the story, the time that I felt like, I'm probably going to run because I just can't tolerate this anymore. It was really 2 things. One, I talked about it at the forum. I kept hearing, we don't like what's happening, but there's nothing we can do. And that just flies all over me. There's always something that can be done. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying these things are going to be the easiest things we've ever done. But to start with that approach or attitude, you're going to lose every time. So, one reason I'm running is I have a different attitude. I have a can-do, will-do, must-do attitude on some of these things. And it's that important. This time in New Smyrna Beach is that important. The other thing at the meeting that was a kind of a pivotal point for me was there was a presentation being made about a certain development that tried to burn Sugar Mill down. We won't name names. But and they were talking. They were about to approve some variance probably on the development, and they were the developer stood up, citizens stood up and said, hey, this particular infrastructure, I think it was water, but this particular infrastructure is at it's at 60 or 70%, and we're running out. Whatever it is, like we're almost going to overbuild our infrastructure. And the developer's attorney got up and said, no, we're at 20 or 30%, and we're adding infrastructure. The city's already got plans to add. And I'm sitting in the back, and I'm thinking, well, we should figure this out. Waiting to see like what the real answer is. What's the data? And we never resolved that. We moved on. Other questions were raised, and the issue was voted on. And I sat there and I said, I've sat in a lot of boardrooms. I've sat in boardrooms with the board of trustees at Embry-Riddle, and my background being a finance professional, you not only have to be able to present the data or present the solution or your opinion, but you have to be able to back it up. You have to be able to present chapter and verse, I say. And that was an example to me of a time when I knew that I felt like I could make a difference. I felt like if I was on the dais, I would have stopped that. And I'd have said, hey, I need to understand this. And the reason is because it may not impact me tomorrow, but it will impact my children. The answer to this makes a big difference to the next generation coming up. So, yeah. I wish you had clapped longer. I needed some water. Just kidding. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm running. It isn't because I can tell you. Somebody mentioned to me early in the campaign. They're like, you look like somebody who's just trying to. I have some things. So they said, you look like you're just trying to prepare for a run for Congress or something bigger and better. I'm like, I really am not. I'm doing this. I'm willing to give this time because I care deeply about New Smyrna Beach, and within 2, 4, however long it takes to be effective, however long it takes to get some of these things done, however long I'm lucky enough, I guess I'll use the word, to serve. I want to do my part here, and then I want to go back to my quiet little life with my family on Hidden Pines. This isn't trying to prepare me for anything better or bigger. This isn't because I woke up one day and said, being mayor sounds really good. I want to have the title or that. That's not what I'm about. Those that really know me or have taken the time to get to know me over the campaign, I think you can attest to that. This really isn't, I don't know that I can say that for every candidate in the race, but I can tell you from my heart, that's not why I'm here. I'm here because I think New Smyrna deserves better than we've gotten. I think we've had a lot of talk. I think we've had a lot of talk. I think we've had a lot of listening. I think we've had a lot of plans. I spoke at the AME Chapel the other night, and in the historic West Side, and it was brought up. They have a neighborhood plan that was put together in 2011, and I commended them on their neighborhood plan. I've read it. It's extremely comprehensive. I think there was a lot of good ideas and solutions in that plan. And I told them there, I said, I commend you on being the first, as I understand it, the first neighborhood to put together a neighborhood plan. Unfortunately, what that means is that your plan is the one that the dust is the thickest on at City Hall. Because we don't do anything with these. We're not actually acting on them. We're doing the easy part. The easy part is to talk about the problem. The easy part is to listen. The hard part is to take action. The hard part is to step up and demand results, to demand action. That's the hard part, and that's where I think I can make a difference. That's where I look forward to serving as a mayor, and not only being the voice of the citizens, and not only listening to the citizens, but driving real and lasting change. We need change in New Smyrna Beach. We need changes to how we approach some of these issues. We need changes to how we address these problems that we're facing. And I look forward to helping to drive that change. One of the things that I've proposed is a Mayor's Advisory Council. So I was always taught, I think it's a proverb in the Bible, it says, from a multitude of counsel there is wisdom. And so I'm a big believer that I don't have all the answers. I have some ideas, I have my opinions, but I don't have all the answers. And so I've proposed this idea of a Mayor's Advisory Council. It's kind of modeled after what I've seen in the university setting. There's a lot of cabinets and advisory kind of committees, if you will, in a university setting. So what I've proposed is, as mayor, that I have this advisory council that would be a diverse demographic. And by that I mean a couple of different cross sections to it. So first of all, representing different demographic areas, different neighborhoods that would be represented. And then I'd also look for unique vantage points within that neighborhood. So somebody that came from, we all have a unique life path and story. So somebody that came from, maybe they've traveled the world and they've lived in 100 different towns. Like, I'd love to have that perspective. What have they seen that worked and didn't work? Somebody that has an educator, a former educator. Somebody that's a former engineer. I mean, just a diverse set of people that not only live in different areas, and so they understand that neighborhood, but they bring some other kind of viewpoint or vantage point, or maybe professional qualification. But it's not just that. To this council. And so we would meet probably on a monthly basis. The meetings would be in different neighborhoods in forums that feel a little bit like this. We'd meet in these different neighborhoods, and that council would come together to talk about the issues, but to put solutions on the table. In my old life at the university, I used to have meetings, and we had two different types of meetings. We'd go into it knowing, is this a discussion meeting, or is this a decide and commit meeting? So these meetings, these advisory council, they'd be structured the same way. We'd go into some saying, look, we've got an issue we need to talk about. We need to get a lot of ideas on the table. And then we'd go into others and say, we've got to decide and commit. We've got to take the top 2 or 3 things, and we got to run with it. We got to start putting a framework together, pick an implementation timeline, and run with this. So the event tonight is a bit of a precursor for that. It's a little bit of an insight into how I think this can work and run. So what we're going to do tonight, Susan's going to kind of help lead this, and I'll be talking more. But what we're going to do tonight is that at each of your tables, there's different topics, and I want to hear from you all. I can sit here and tell you my ideas and all my solutions. And I want to be clear, I do have them. This isn't that I'm just looking for everyone else's idea because I have none of my own. There's some that are published, there's some that I put on Facebook, and we'll talk as you all present these. But it's important to me. And one of the amazing things to me is as I've met and sat in living rooms around this town, the folks that have come up and said, I lived in this little town, and they had a problem very similar to this, and here's how they approached it. I'm like, that's brilliant. Like, we should absolutely import that right here. And I could have spent 100 days on trying to research that and not found that little town that person knew about. So that's kind of what tonight is all about. It's a very different kind of campaign event, but I think it will give you an insight into what my leadership style is, what a term with me as mayor would kind of look and feel like for New Smyrna Beach. So. That's what we're going to do. There'll be some dialogue and discussion, but with that, I think I'm going to hand it over to Susan, who is the one who is, everything tonight, this person has just been I didn't know Susan. We met at the beginning of this campaign. And, there's an old saying, I guess by someone said a while ago, that it takes a village to raise a child. And we can debate that later, but I can tell you, it takes a village and it takes some dedicated volunteers to run a campaign. I can absolutely attest to that. I would be floundering somewhere with probably 1 yard sign if it wasn't for Susan. So I appreciate all that she's done. So I'm going to hand it over to her. We'll take it from there.
Well, this is sort of scary because we're doing something very different. For those in the audience that have been to, raise your hand if you have been to meetings at the city. Been to meetings at the city. Have you been satisfied with those meetings?
Not exactly.
They're awful. They're awful. You get 3 minutes to talk. You can bring every fact imaginable to them, and then you go away, and nothing happens. So this night is about stuff happening. Russ has spectacular ideas, but let's let everybody have a voice. So what you're going to do is we got people at each table, and there's little cards at them, and that's the issue you're going to solve. You got 10 minutes to come up with what problem do you want to solve that has to do with that topic, and what the solution is. And there will be prizes. Can you hear? So everybody get to a table.
Questions for...
But the big thing is we have gift certificates from a lot of the local merchants. I'm seeing Third Wave here. I see Garden Fusion. I see all of my favorite places, actually.
You got a garlic in there?
There may be, I don't know. So there will be, the person that comes up will pick from one of these. Susan, is that how it works? She's not listening. All right. So with that, let's give Dave our attention. Dave, what was the issue for your table?
The issue for our table was improving communication with the city, and the suggestion that we thought had the most merit was zone meetings. So sort of in concert with what our new mayor is thinking about, sort of having meetings for each one of the zones, each one of the commissioners, and the idea would be to have quarterly meetings to solicit citizens' input that was specific to that particular zone, thereby aggregating topics that were especially hot for a particular area of the city, and would also help our commissioners stay more in touch with the needs of their constituents. So that was our suggestion.
Thank you. Thank you all. Yeah, I really like that idea. I think one key element of that is it's not just about having the meeting, but that it's in the neighborhood. I think that's important, that it's not always at City Hall, because there's folks who, for whatever reason, that they're not going to come to City Hall, but they might come if it's in their neighborhood. If it's at a neighbor's house around the corner, they may come, there may be some more involvement. So I like that idea, thank you. Susan, who's up next? What table is next?
Owen Davison.
Owen Davidson, come on down. All right, a fellow Owen, but his is in the wrong order. He's Owen first name. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Russ. I wanted to mention the fact that you already know my name, and I'm right behind Ed Ellison. We've only lived here for 50 years, so we've been around a long time. And our topic was public safety, which is major as far as the budget's concerned. It probably is one of the more major departments within the city. I looked around, and I told Russ before, I looked around all the tables, and I just didn't see anything about Parks and Recreation or leisure services as a potential topic, and that's what I'm a real advocate for since I've been involved with the city for a long, long time in the beginning of my career. So anyway, we need to plug that in at some point in time. So we had a couple of different topics that we talked about for public safety. The one we came up with is probably near and dear to anybody who lives on the beach side, and it has to do with parking. And especially, obviously, during special events when they're inundated with everybody parking from either city folks or outside the city. So our solution, what we came up with, is to have a little bit more enforcement, signage, so that people know that they came down and parked there, but more enforcement when people do park there, that they're going to get a ticket. And don't make it a cheap ticket, make it a ticket of $50 or whatever it may be. And the other secondary solution perhaps might be a shuttle service. We got some off-street parking that you can park at the Marine Discovery Center and areas like that, and shuttle people over. If they know they're going to get a ticket for parking somewhere illegally, perhaps they'll hop on a bus and go over there and lose a little inconvenience, but save a little bit of money. Thank you.
So I'm just going to add to that really quick. I like that idea. You know, I think I talked in the Smart Growth Questionnaire. There's a theory out there, Malcolm Gladwell talks about it a lot in his book, Tipping Point, called the Broken Windows Theory. Read up on it. And I'm not saying it's the perfect theory, but he talks about this enforcement. It's one thing to have it on the books, but it's another thing to enforce these things, have the ordinances and enforce the ordinances, make sure it hurts a little bit. You know, I was just in New Orleans, and I can tell you they enforce it there. The first few times I went to New Orleans, I would park somewhere, maybe not be as mindful about the meter, and I learned my lesson because they gave you tickets and they hurt. They hurt enough. Now when I go, I follow the rules. I know that you park where you're supposed to, and you put the money in the meter. So I think we absolutely should do the same, especially in those areas that really deal with this on beachside. And I think there's another table on transportation, so we'll see what they talk about with the shuttle, and we'll get to that. Sorry, what was the next name?
Kathy Vaughn.
Kathy Vaughn, come on up.
Kathy goes to every commission meeting. She writes the notes. This is a woman with a lot of perseverance.
I can sit a long time, that's the other thing. So my table's topic was residential development, and we were talking about a couple of different areas. And coming into the city, when you come in from, say, 95, that area, we thought maybe there was an opportunity to do some additional landscaping at that entrance, and more of a, I guess, a tropical feel with the palm trees and stuff. And we also talked about emphasizing the historical importance of New Smyrna Beach, because that sometimes we think gets lost a bit. I'm not sure how we work that in with the entrance, but there might possibly is an opportunity there. We talked about strengthening and enacting architectural guidelines. You know, the city actually just recently, I think, passed some, but that's after decades of not doing so. And you can see that actually the structures have been torn down. You can't see anymore, you know, because some of that hasn't been done. We talked about incentives to help people improve historical properties too. We haven't really, you know, emphasized. We haven't figured that out yet. We talked about working for local concurrency guidelines, which is concurrency is making sure your roads and your water, sewer, infrastructure can handle the growth that you're doing. And maybe there's an opportunity to work closer with the Utilities Commission on that, because I'm not really clear, as you said, how much water we do have left and how much of the wastewater and the sewer there is. And then we talked about also on this going further west for a streetscape and landscaping to improve the appearance of West Canal, because that's also part of your entrance to the city. And that, I think the streetscape stopped at Myrtle Avenue, if I remember right, and it needs to go a little bit farther to kind of give people an idea of, you know, what we're about, make it look better to come in. So that's as far as we got, actually.
You stopped at only like 10 solutions, so yeah. I was going to add, you know, one that you mentioned that all these are good. I've talked about some of these at length, so I agree with I think almost everything here. You know, one that touched on that emphasizing the historical importance. You know, what is St. Augustine known as? It's the oldest city, right? What is New Smyrna known as?
Second oldest.
Orlando's Beach. That's us. We have all the same cultural, and there's so many things that we could be known as. I mean, we're this vibrant, you know, ecotourism could be something we could be known for. You know, our historical, you know, structures and things like that. Our history is, we have a rich history as well, is what I'm trying to say, uneloquently. We have a very rich history that we could leverage, we could be known for as well. So I really like that. Lou's up. If you stand here and not right in front of us, it's good.
Hi. Our table was transportation, and I'm sure that's on everybody's mind. Okay. All right, transportation. Traffic on Route 44, weekends especially. So some of the resolutions were considering perhaps a parking garage, perhaps where the former Outback Steakhouse is, and we don't get that hotel. Plus a shuttle. Obviously, there's going to have to be a shuttle. And there also is, we thought, perhaps a sign on 44 starting at Route 4 and also at Route 15, giving them an opportunity to get onto 95 to go to Daytona, so that... But seriously, with a sign that would say that the beaches are full, and seriously stop some of that traffic on 44. 44. Okay. Synchronize the lights. Gosh, wouldn't that be nice? Having perhaps an officer to keep the traffic moving in the afternoon. And then we had from an owner who is an owner of a business on Flagler suggesting that perhaps on weekends closing Flagler Avenue and having perhaps one-way traffic maybe coming in for beach traffic, going around and coming out another way. And I think that in itself could perhaps, yeah. Okay, we got more. Stricter enforcement of the 2-hour parking, and as Russ said, let's really charge. I heard people say, I'll pay the fine. You know, so let's make some money as well. There was also perhaps an expansion of Williamson to get the cars off 44. We do realize there's people on Pioneer that don't like that idea, but it's a possibility, I guess. And evaluate the parking spaces on Flagler. And what we mean by that is there's palm trees, and those palm trees seem to take up a lot of space. And somebody was mentioning that we need to beautify. We can maybe move them. Anyway, that was another one. I guess we got a lot of dissension on this one. And lastly, I'm only reading the card. Exactly. And lastly, just to make sure that the deliveries on Flagler Avenue by the trucks, the 18-wheelers, are done early in the morning.
I've talked about a lot of those ideas, and there's some really good ones. The traffic flow on 44, using artificial intelligence in the red lights is one thing I've talked about. A lot of cities are doing this. Lights that can, have cameras that can read and sense the traffic, that can communicate with each other, they can adjust their timing dynamically. This is all really, really cheap technology. There's enough power in your phone to do this, and we can bring that right here to New Smyrna. Some of the, yes?
I just had a comment about the traffic lights and the cameras. A friend of mine had an accident at Route 1 and Canal Street.
Yep.
And went to the city to obtain the video so that he could prove his case. And they told him that that camera has been out for like a year and nobody's fixed it. They don't have the money in the budget.
So for those of you that hear that have cameras, so I'm talking about two different types of cameras. Those are cameras that are more for that. Yeah.
You gotta maintain them.
Yeah, no, you gotta have the system and then maintain it. Yeah, for sure. So, yeah. So that was the last thing I was going to say. One thing about transportation that makes it a bit challenging, but doesn't mean we just throw up our hands and say there's nothing we can do. There's always something you can do. But one of the things that makes it a bit challenging is a lot of our infrastructure and corridors is controlled by FDOT. But that doesn't mean we don't have a voice. It's New Smyrna roads. New Smyrna citizens are using them. So I think it's still important. We can still apply leverage. I talked to one table about this. As mayor, you have a voice. You have the ability to draw attention to an issue. So next up. Sandy Simpson. There you go.
Our table was transparency, and the question was that we answered is who answers to whom? The city council to the city manager, or vice versa? Well, we have an answer for that. Well, I won't go with that answer. But one thing, if the Monday meeting that the city manager has with each commissioner and the mayor is open to the public, there cannot be more than one commissioner there for sunshine laws unless it's advertised. But if it were open to the public, we would have an opportunity to make sure that each commissioner is hearing the same thing and not what the city manager particularly wants one commissioner to hear versus another. second, a voting meeting. At the educational meeting, commissioners would be given the information, have time to discuss it, have time to listen to the public, and then later on vote on it versus the way it's done now, which is dog and pony show.
Thank you. I really like that last one. Something I've talked about, we have laborious agendas. I mean, it's 1,600 pages for Coastal Woods, and it's wedged in between the stop sign on Magnolia and buying a new lawnmower. And I've never understood that. And it forces the conversation in a way that it's very rushed, it's very hurried. There's not enough time to have good dialogue, ask questions, have a chance for follow-up. I really like that idea. I hadn't quite thought of it in that approach. But yeah, that's absolutely what's needed. There needs to be good time for dialogue by all the commissioners, chance to hear the same message, ask the questions, make sure those answers are presented before they vote. Absolutely. Melinda Wilk. There she is.
Our topic was economic development. We agree it's time for action. There's a lot of talk and a lot of things that can be done. So these are suggestions. One is to increase the interaction with and partner with additional economic advisory boards and councils in our county, say in Daytona, just so that we know what's coming in stream, what's going out, some of the offers of businesses that come to the state and to the county may be better served in a smaller community like ours, New Smyrna, instead of Daytona. So increasing communication about that. Maintain a standard for new businesses and industries coming in. And I think that will also elevate our standard of living and just keep things similar. Our number one choice is for securing higher paying jobs through technology, possibly repurposing US 1 through Mayor Owen's connections to multiple universities. His role in New Smyrna Beach will enable networking to attract new businesses in technology.
Sorry, I was just going to add to that. I like that last one. Not because she said that. I've said this a lot on economic development. I want to change some things about it, but one of the primary fundamental things that will change on day one is changing the definition of creating a job. We just approved the tractor supply store. Not my favorite project, but it'll probably be okay. But I don't count that as creating a job in New Smyrna Beach. To me, the definition of creating a job should be that it's at or above the current median wage. And if we hold that standard over time, we would see our median wage increase. So we'd have jobs that the youth that are here, we got some sitting right over here, the youth that are a product of this community, we're exporting our greatest asset. And it's the young leaders and next generation that they grow up here, they go to our schools, they attend our universities, but then to find good employment, they have to go somewhere else. And I want to change that right here in New Smyrna Beach. And we can. We have all the assets to do it. All right, next.
Next one is Kevin Klein.
Kevin. Kevin Kyle.
All right, so I got nominated for this because my wife wouldn't do it. She
Certificate then.
Still, my wife wouldn't do it. Okay, so we actually thought about this, and it came up in at least 3 of the other folks that have stepped up here today about transportation. Several people talked about transportation, but we were tackling what can be done to make NSB an ecological hub. And for many of you that have traveled, you've probably seen models that work. You can talk about the country of Costa Rica that possesses 82% of the world's biodiversity. You can talk about Austin, Texas, where I was last week. We'll talk about that in a second. But there's a lot of ecological hubs around the world. They drive tourism. You guys all live here because it's a really beautiful place. You like where you are. The reason that we unfortunately became known as Orlando's Beach is because people like to be here. It's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful place to be. So some of the ideas, I'll get to it now. We started with some simple things that are almost no-brainers in this day and age, like electric car charging stations. So show some progression. I'm in the process of putting these into my business in Ormond Beach right now. More as a gesture to people that come visit my business. Nobody has an electric car yet. We're going to do this. And then a few other things. I'm going to come back to the electric thing in a second, but attack the plastic straws and the plastic bags issue. And there was a whole bunch of talk about why this can and can't be done. But here's what I'd tell you. I've got some really, really good surfer friends that are honestly fairly conservative, quote unquote, non-green people, but they're good surfers. And up in Jacksonville, and they attacked this because they frankly believe in it and completely changed it. They banned straws up in Ponte Vedra. Okay, we can do this here. It's just a matter of all of us getting together and handling it. The plastic bags thing, I'll go talk to the manager in Publix. We'll get it done in an afternoon. It's no problem. Next thing, I should put my glasses. Identify funding that. Identify funding that would allow the city to purchase wetlands. Okay, and this is near and dear, and I'll come back to some thoughts on this, but they need to be put in a public trust, and it needs to be locked in a box for not my daughter's generation, but her grandchildren's generation. Encourage the formation of charter schools. We're running short on schools here anyway. And don't get me started on the $50 million that Volusia County cut out of the schools as soon as the financial crisis hit. What are we doing? I mean, what are we investing in? We'll get to that at a county level topic, but invest in that. Decide as a city that we actually care and go for it. And so that's a whole other thing. And then going forward, and this was really a solution, this is the one that comes back to the transportation thing. Everybody's aware of the water taxi that exists or did exist around here. I'm not sure exactly on the status. Our take on the water taxi was that it was kind of a commitment. You were getting on that thing for a while. Why not create something? And this is coming back to Lime Bikes. Vivian and I were in Austin, Texas last weekend, and they had these little scooters, these little electric scooters. You could walk up with your phone, scan the QR code, and it released the scooter. And 15 miles an hour, and you could go anywhere you wanted to in the city for like $1, $2. Okay, really simple. You walk up, scan the thing, and you go. Why not make the water taxi something that hops from the Brennan Center, over to the Marine Discovery Center, over to the Riverview Hotel, over to the... maybe even stops at the island that's just north of the North Causeway to give people another beach, a different beach, and then move your parking over to this side and reinvigorate this part of the town. Okay, so some ideas that I'm not saying all this is easy or feasible, but that was not one
The straws, there are 3 restaurants that are already known with gas.
Yeah, volunteer man. So one thing I would add, I've said this a lot, I think I've said it to folks tonight, as I meet a lot of people around New Smyrna, I didn't just meet Kevin, he's one of my neighbors actually, but as I meet a lot of people in these events around New Smyrna, I'm reminded, and I genuinely feel this, I'm not the best person in New Smyrna Beach to be mayor. I think I'm the best one on the ballot, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that I'm the best person. And I hear people like that, I'm like, why aren't you running? Why am I not over here? Why don't I write you a check? But I'm the one here, so good thoughts. I really like that, and yeah. Who's next?
Get your prize.
You didn't get Miss Tiffany's prize.
What needs it?
Vivi, come on. Who's
Bob
next?
Sanders.
Bob Sanders.
I made the mistake of going over here for a glass of wine, and I came back and they handed me this. Yeah, so I'm the guy that's up here. Anyway, public schools table over here, and we kind of identified a couple issues that kind of come together. One of them is the high dropout rate in the high school. And there's also a need for skilled workers. The contractors, if you've ever hired a contractor to do some work at your home, they have to hire subcontractors, electricians, plumbers, tile workers, concrete guys, whatever. And so we wondered if maybe somehow the mayor might be able to create a forum where the contractors meet with people that are at-risk students to see if they might be interested in going into the skilled trades. High school, let the contractors get hands-on if they want to pull from that and develop a new talent pool of new workers in New Smyrna Beach. So we'd be known for that. So there you go. That's it.
Completely new idea. I have not heard that anywhere else. That's a really, I like that a lot. We have our first volunteer to be one of those mentors. You know, I've said before, I think one of our greatest assets here in New Smyrna Beach is what I call a young retired population that's still willing to give of time and treasure. They have this vast expertise that they're willing to give. So I think something I would dovetail with that on the public schools is, you know, they're willing volunteers that will go in and help mentor some of these students. And I know we have programs, but I want to see those, you know, the public schools to a large degree are controlled by the county, but there are things that we can do, like programs like that, mentoring in the schools, you know, touching the at-risk youth, being able to, you know, have touch points with them to help see other paths. Because yeah, college isn't for everyone. I completely agree. The trades, you know, there's trades that are dying, and there's going to be high demand for these trades in the future. So I think that's an excellent idea. Yeah. Is somebody writing all this down somewhere? Wait, we're recording. All right, good. There we go. Sandy Simpson. I thought we called her. Steve.
Steve, come on.
Well, I'm glad Russ gave me the mic. So I have to tell a little bit of a story. I'm a member of New Smyrna Beach Citizens for Smart Growth. We invited Em, was part of the interview committee, but she had the 5 grandchildren, and I got to go to the interview. During that interview process, it didn't take me long to compare Russ to one of the best bosses that I've ever had. And I texted my wife while she was taking care of the grandchildren and said, I think we found the guy. My boss that was my best boss was a fact-driven guy. He said, give me the information. If he didn't get enough information to help him understand what the situation was, he would ask for more. Then he would make his decision. So it wasn't Well, I'm just going to jump. Let's do it from the facts, and that's what I hear from Russ here. So, pardon the political speech. It was a paid advertisement. Our topic was transparency, and one of the things that we have heard over and over again is somewhere along the line with a project that's being built, either there's a variance given, an agreement has been made, whether it's something as simple as which directions the light will shine, rather than into someone's house, it's going to shine on the street. But that information is not recorded. So when a neighbor complains about the light, then when code enforcement goes and, well, I've got this document that says this is what it's supposed to be, and they're not in violation. Somebody didn't record that information with that particular piece of property. And our suggestion is we ensure that the planning and zoning and building make sure that any variances or any requirements, whatever they may be, are documented.
That's a big one. There's people that have lived through that. And his example of the lights, he didn't make up. So next, Pat.
Our table was financial stability, and we came up with several ideas. I think we all agree that New Smyrna Beach is like a gold mine as far as the ocean and water and river, but we're not getting the gold. I read Russ's answers to the questions this morning on the email sent to all the candidates, and he brought up some really good points that the bed tax, we're getting a very small part, Volusia County gets most of it. Volusia County gets all the beach revenues. Volusia County gets most of the impact fees. So our table's proposal was all this traffic we're concerned about, turn it into an asset. At $5 a car at the beach, they went from $4 to $20 in 4 to 5 years. Why can't you go to 25 and we keep the last 5 instead of all going to Volusia County? Okay? And at that point, you're welcome, beach viewers. Okay? Add $10 a car for the residents to stay in New Smyrna Beach, not to go to Volusia County. Add bed tax, in addition to what's already there, it'll stay in New Smyrna Beach. Add impact fees to what's already there, it'll stay in New Smyrna Beach. The city of Marina has a 3 to 4 year waiting list to get a boat in there, which tells me they're not charging enough. Okay, so possibly looking to raise the fees there. And last but not least, the boat ramp green area, I'd love to stay green. Right now they're charging $10, which they've never charged before. And it's packed on weekends. It didn't stop one person. So I'm saying, is that all New Smyrna Beach money? You know? Okay, if it's not, or if it is, maybe down the road, you know, a year from now or so, make it $15. Once again, it all stays in New Smyrna Beach. So those are just things, taking our gold mine and keeping the gold.
Those were all good. There was a common theme there, and you may have heard a lot of, you know, increase this. To me, it's supply and demand. You touched on that. I mean, this is economics 101. If you only have so much, and you have way too much demand for it, you either have to supply more, you have to build more, which we can't build more beach, we can't build more of some things, or you have to adjust the pricing to try to tamp the demand. So on the one thing I'd add on the financial stability, and we're almost finished here. One thing I'd add on that is, you know, it's probably my wheelhouse more than almost any other issue. It's my background. You know, the budget is something I can't wait to take a really deep dive in. I've read the 500-page report they put out, but I know how those reports are put together. I know there's more behind the scenes that we need to go look at. and there's budget processes that we should be pushing into the city that are best practices that are done by nonprofits and government organizations that I know about. I've implemented them at the university, and I would bring them to the city. So, last one.
Very, very last one. Melinda Wilk.
Melinda.
Melinda?
Do we have a Melinda? Nope.
Nope. Okay.
All right.
Did you? Yeah, I gave you the name.
Residential development.
Who? What's the name?
Who is it?
Nevin.
Nevin. Nevin, come on up. Last.
Somebody else wanted to do it.
All right, this will be the last one. I know we may not have gotten to every table. I'll come talk to you afterwards. This has been great for me. A lot of good things. So last one, Nevin.
What? Keep it short? I said keep it short. Oh, and everybody else is talking so long, I thought I'd do them all. Well, we had residential development, and our concerns were all over the place, from Airbnb to variances, and somebody already talked something about variances, but we said, no variances, change the law. You know, I mean, have specific things for specific areas. The concern was a lot about not just the developers that are developing and not really leaving the 40% of property that they need to perk, but residents that are doing that. And I think many of you have driven by Faulkner and Wayne. Is it Wayne? Anyway, that big house on the corner. We also had a concern about just basic limiting of residential construction, and how can we do that? I just wanted to limit things to what our stock is, and then allow it to grow with sort of a normal growth rate. You know, if it's like inflation, it's 3%. So if we want to grow 3% a year, then allow 3% housing growth a year, but not 100%, whatever. And then the third thing had to do with Airbnbs and how to control them. We need to have a policy. Orlando just passed a policy. It might be worth looking at their policy. I heard it on the radio. Can't say what it is exactly, but it sounded pretty good. And I don't know about you, but we've got 2 places on my street, which is a very short street, just between Saxon and A1A. It doesn't go very far. And one of them is well managed, and the other one is not. And that's because the landlord wants to manage it well, or the landlord does not want to manage it well. And we need to have consistency.
I agree. I've talked a lot. I won't go into it. I've talked a lot about standards when it comes to our residential development. I think that's the answer to almost all of the issues, is having standards. There's communities that have done that. You have a standard and you hold to it. You're not granting a variance every time you turn around. So that's this has been really, really cool. This is what I think this should look and feel like. I think there's been good ideas. You know what was interesting to me though is there was one idea that was thrown out. I think it had to do with a palm tree somewhere, but it was one thing, and it was immediate. Like, no, we should probably back away from that, right? So I think this is what a russowen Mayor's Advisory Council kind of forum, town hall thing would kind of look and feel like. So I hope you enjoyed it. I know I certainly have. I wrap up with this. Just a couple of things. I touched on them earlier, but this isn't August 28th is not an agreement on the issues. We know the issues. We feel them. We see them. We're seeing them and feeling them a little more every day. We know the issues. August 28th isn't an agreement on the solutions. We can talk about them, but it's not an agreement on the solutions. What August 28th is an agreement on the leader, the person, the candidate, who can and will actually work to solve them, who will make lasting change. So yes, we have challenges. I like challenges, and we have some. I'm a problem solver, and we've got some problems to solve. But I've spent my entire career facing challenges and solving problems, and I'm ready to do the same for New Smyrna Beach. So I'll end with this really quickly. Some of you have heard this story before I turn it over to Susan. I was putting a dishwasher in a couple of weeks ago, and I chose to do it myself because I'm a DIY guy. I like to get my hands dirty and do it myself. So I'm pulling this dishwasher out, I disconnect the electric, I remember to do that, I pull it out, I disconnect the water supply line, I forgot to turn that off. So my kitchen is just full of water. I'm standing there, it's like I'm standing in a wetland. Some developer called, wanted to build there. So I'm standing there and I thought of the campaign, and what I thought of is, I'm a DIY guy. What I said earlier about it takes a village to do this. I can't become mayor or even serve as mayor. It's not a DIY thing. It's a community thing. It takes more than one person. It's not just about me. It's everyone. So I asked on August 28th, early voting starts tomorrow, I'm told. So early voting starts tomorrow. So I asked that on early voting on August 28th that you help me send a message to City Hall. And the message to me that needs to be sent to City Hall is that as residents, we're tired of talk, we want action. We're tired of listening, we want results. And that we're tired of current leadership, we want russowen to lead the charge.
So we need to finish that up. Number two, we need financial contributions. Unlike some of the other candidates, he's taking no money from any corporation or anything development. So there's no payback at the end. And number three, we need people at the polling stations. So please see Deb and Randy in the corner over there. They're taking names and numbers.